Today, we're jumping right into the Quran's longest and, you could argue, most comprehensive chapter, Surah Al-Baqarah, which translates to the cow. And it's so much more than just a collection of verses. It really is a foundational blueprint for life, just packed with theology, history, and law that has shaped societies for, well, over 1,000 years. So, let's take a guided tour and see what makes this chapter so central. So you've got to wonder, right? What exactly is inside a chapter this long? Is it just one single epic story? A long list of rules? Well, the truth is, it's all of that, and then some. And figuring out how all those different pieces fit together is really the key to unlocking what it's all about. So instead of thinking about it like a linear story, picture it more like a master blueprint for a community. It starts by laying down these core pillars of what to believe. Then it uses stories from past nations as these really powerful case studies. And from there, it builds out a whole legal framework for a just society, covering basically everything from how you handle your money to family life. To help us navigate this, we're going to break it down into 5 key themes. We'll kick things off with its main purpose, then look at how it classifies people. After that, we'll dive into the historical lessons, explore the legal framework it provides for society, and we'll wrap it all up with its final summary of what faith is all about. The surah, it really doesn't waste any time. I mean, right from the get-go, it tells you what it's for and exactly who it's speaking to. This pretty much sets the stage for everything that's about to come. The chapter opens with this incredibly bold, really confident statement. It says, "This is the book about which there is no doubt." And then, right away, it defines its audience. The guidance isn't just for everyone, randomly. It's specifically for those who are conscious of God, the muttaqin. This is a huge theme. The message really connects with those who are already looking for it. Okay, so right after it lays out its purpose, the chapter does something interesting. It splits humanity into 3 basic groups based entirely on how they respond to this guidance. And this framework, this idea of 3 types of people, it pops up again and again. And here's the breakdown. First, you've got the pious. That's the audience we just talked about. Second, the disbelievers, who are described as just being completely closed off to the message. But, and this is fascinating, the text spends the most time on this third group, the hypocrites. These are the people who say they believe on the outside, but are hiding disbelief on the inside. The chapter gives this really sharp psychological profile of this group, and that sets the stage for a lot of the social dynamics that come later. Now, this brings us to the biggest chunk of the entire surah. A huge amount of space is dedicated to the history of the children of Israel. And these stories aren't just presented as, here's what happened. They're framed as powerful object lessons for the community of believers. And as you read through these stories, you start to see this clear recurring pattern. It kicks off with divine favor. God gives blessings, makes a promise. But then that's followed by covenant breaking. The people forget, they disobey. That, of course, leads to consequences, and they face hardship. But the cycle doesn't just end there. It always concludes with divine mercy, where God offers a way back. It's presented as this timeless cycle of human nature. At the very heart of all these lessons, there's this one very specific and kind of peculiar story. It's so central to this whole theme of obedience that the entire massive chapter is named after it. The story of the cow. This story is just this perfect little case study in hesitation versus submission. A simple command is given, sacrifice a cow. But instead of just doing it, the people come back with a whole bunch of questions. What kind of cow? What color is it? How old should it be? And the text explains that with every question, the task actually gets harder and more specific. In the end, they do it, but the narrative adds this critical detail. They did it reluctantly, and it says they almost didn't do it at all. It's a classic lesson in faith and obedience. Okay, so after setting up all these lessons from history, the surah completely shifts gears. It moves from the past to the here and now, and it starts laying out this practical, legal, and social framework for the community. This is where that blueprint idea really comes to life. And the scope here is just huge. The chapter gets into everything from core rituals like fasting and pilgrimages to really complex economic ideas like the ban on interest. In fact, the longest single verse in the entire Quran is in this chapter, and it's all about how to write up a debt contract. You can see the philosophy behind it all. It's designed to build a society based on compassion and justice, to protect the vulnerable. Then it moves into laws for marriage, divorce, criminal justice, really a complete guide for how to live together. And right in the middle of all these laws, you find what is maybe the most famous verse in the whole Quran, Ayat al-Kursi, or the verse of the throne. It's just this beautiful, powerful declaration of God's absolute power, His knowledge, His sovereignty. It's like a reminder of where all these laws and guidance are coming from. But what's really amazing is what comes in the very next verse. Immediately after this profound statement about God's ultimate power, the text says there is no compulsion in religion. That pairing is so powerful. A declaration of ultimate divine authority is immediately followed by a confirmation of human free will and religious freedom. So as this massive chapter finally starts to wrap up, it doesn't just end. It summarizes everything that came before it, boiling the whole message down to its absolute core, defining what it really means to be a believer. And there they are, the core articles of faith, all summarized in these last verses. A true believer is someone who has faith in God, His angels, His revealed books, and all of His messengers. And there's an important note there, to make no distinction between them. So after this long journey through law and history, the chapter brings it all back to this simple, profound foundation. And then the entire chapter ends. So what's the big takeaway from our tour? From defining belief, to drawing lessons from history, to laying out these detailed laws for finance and family, Surah Al-Baqarah really is a manual for both faith and life. And that leaves us with a pretty big question, doesn't it? How does a text that's 1,400 years old continue to be a practical and spiritual blueprint for millions and millions of people all over the world today?